Good evening, folks. Here we are for the 5th Infinity Cast with, of course,
Chesapeake face.
And Robbie, who's just shutting the door behind him.
Robbie who shuts the door. That's
Yes.
gonna be his Infinity Wars card. Is Robbie who shuts the door?
Definitely. So say hello.
Did his
Robbie.
camera
that's
freeze?
just the flavor.
There we go. So yeah, this is Robbie. He is a dev at Lightmare. What is your actual full job description?
My job description changes daily. I'm responsible for all of the single-player content in the game, as well as all of statistics tracking and metrics, and more recently, card design. I do a lot.
Yeah, you do, and you are one of the main minds behind Infestation. Yes.
Yeah. Infestation was a funny story. It was Ian's originally, and there was probably about 60 cards were done by him before I took over. So some of his cards I did cut or change. So I guess for the second half of Infestation development, that was most. But it's even so when I do design cards, Ian's very much always like checking my work and making sure it's good. But all sets that are currently in development are designed by me primarily.
Nice. Wow.
Yay, Robbie!
Yay for Robbie! Round of applause for Infestation. I think. Yeah. So yeah, Chess, do you want to go ahead and start with the question? I guess we might as well jump straight into the questions.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's good segue, Nova. Good segue. We're here, like Robbie's our guest host, so don't feel grilled, Robbie.
Yeah, true.
Hint, hint. You could ask me and Nova questions also about ourselves and what our job descriptions are, but no pressure. We made a list. How do you feel now that Infestation's out in the public and been played with for about 3 weeks and all? How are you feeling about your baby being free? And is it going to get et by a dingo? And how's your child doing in the wild?
I'm quite happy with how Infestation has worked out. There are a couple of cards which I'm not quite happy with where they stand right now, but overall, as Infestation was a major step not only for me but for the company effort. Before this, this is probably the first time we had the community involved in such a large scale. And I think that's a lot of the reason why we avoided some of the pitfalls we had with Rise release, with certain cards being just ridiculously overpowered. Obviously, there are a couple now which maybe are a little too strong, but overall, I feel it's both a fun and engaging set and reasonably well balanced. I think most of the imbalances for me were cards which weren't directly involved with Infestation and more the Exiles rework. But I'm very happy with how Infestation has worked out. But yeah,
Nice.
I'm quite happy.
Any real big surprises for you? People using cards in a way that we hadn't really considered in the quality assurance process, or that you hadn't really considered in designing them?
Always. I can't think of many right now. Obviously, the big one was probably the uncontrolled rift of a raw sort of deck. That was a big one. I think the infected drone in command being targeted by a leader was another one that we didn't quite pick up on, but that was mostly because we changed the card very, very late into development. As you guys know before, it was like a 5-cost 10/10, I think, and then when it was targeted, it turned into an 8/8. Like it was a very,
like that, yeah.
it didn't have a place anywhere.
And every time we looked at the card,
So-
Taramis kept telling us it was going to have an on-death effect. So it seemed like there was some intention to change it to that, and it didn't go through. I don't know. But yeah, that card never got the looking at it needed, probably.
This was one of the cards which I didn't have full control over. And it was obviously part of a cycle. and certain parts of those, certain cards of those. I guess I felt like if we had to change it to make Arisen by Avarock or whatever was proposed, we would have to do that for all of the cards. At which point I felt it was too late in the development. I didn't really want to change like 5 or 6 cards, just on the off chance that it might maybe be a bit better. And I tried to find a new home for it very late in development just by changing some stats, some costs.
It has been becoming an 8/8 when targeted. I think by the time this video gets seen in the public, it will already have been detuned to a 7/7.
Yes.
Maybe. Which obviously, I think down to a 7/7 is a little bit more reasonable. If it's an 11/11, you can deal with it. Like you couldn't deal with it with like a 4-power card and a 6-power card. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with like first couple of turns, so
No,
like
I mean,
you'd probably take 2 characters to kill it rather than maybe 3.
something in Infinity Wars, an 11/11 is very much better than a 10/10. It's not a 1-point difference in Infinity Wars. Seems minute, but it's actually very much better. A 5 health card is very much better than a 4 health card.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so you're talking about the cards that you are not happy with in Infestation. So which ones are those?
I think all around the infected cycle had some holes in it. Infected Demon was one of them. I guess you guys are used to Infested Abomination. Guys not very fond of that.
I guess I've had some words about that card.
Just don't.
Yeah, I think I could probably count the cards I'm not fully happy with on one hand. They're not coming to me right now.
Okay.
But
Are 4 of them Infested Abomination?
for the sake of the argument, yes.
Well, that's pretty good. In a 100-card set, there's only like about 5 that you're not happy with, and that's not bad at all. And obviously, they can be tweaked and everything. In the future,
I mean, what's your least favorite stuff in the Infestation set?
What's ours?
I'm not asking you, I already know.
Mine. That's a good. I don't know actually. Let me just. I don't know.
I really don't care for Demoralize very much, but I guess it's getting a buff. I still won't care for it because I don't like a spell that just has a simple effect like that, I guess. It's like the Dark Blast of morale. And I don't want my opponents to win by morale. I want to be free to ignore that morale is in this game and play as if there's no such thing as morale. I don't want people directly damaging it and making me think about that.
Yes. I think I made Demoralize a little bit worse than it should have been. The story behind that one is I was the one who said we should have Dark Blast in the game. And in some respects, I really regret that. It caused some issues for quite a while, and along with stuff like Rally and Repair. But after Rally and Repair and Dark Blast, Demoralize was the only card that we didn't have. Like we had Repair, which healed Fortress damage. We had Rally, which got extra morale, and then you've got direct Fortress damage, but we didn't have anything that did direct morale damage. So we felt like we had to have it out of necessity to sort of complete that sort of side of the game.
Yeah.
But I'm still very wary of it. Obviously, we've had problems with morale in the past being a little bit too prevalent. So I did try to make it not exactly competitive. And in the end, I think that probably hurt that particular card far more than it should have.
But I suppose like kind of not making it as good is probably being scared of the morale meta coming back, because we all don't want that to come back. So.
Yeah.
I can understand.
There are more ways, I think, to damage morale than to damage the fortress. So Dark Blast being 50% better doesn't seem terrible to me, because you can anything that kills a creature is technically morale damage. Death Ray is technically does morale damage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's true. And that's sort of why the morale meta existed. Like, if you're playing Magic the Gathering and you killed characters and that was all you did, like, you couldn't win the game through that. Like, you still needed a victory condition. But with the way morale works, when you're killing characters, you are, like, pushing towards a win condition. And in some cases, that backfired on us. And it's something we're obviously very cautious of going forward as well.
Yeah.
But
I think because morale decks at the moment are still pretty good. They are still pretty good, and you do see quite a lot of them. But I think they're in a decent place at the moment. I think they're okay.
They take tenacity to play. You have to really be committed to moraling your opponent out. It takes
of course.
And I don't have any of that. I'm a weak man.
Fair enough. Yeah, you like your games fast. I like to take my time with DoD and just
fast and hard. Don't forget hard. Fast and hard.
Fast and hard. Sorry. Whoa. Go on then. So let's go the opposite. You're talking about your worst card. So which card are you most proud of in Infestation?
I really enjoy the flavor which a lot of the Infested cards brought to the table. Infested Hulker, Infested the Flame Dawn one? Can't remember his name.
They have Infested Purifier and that's Infected Purifier, Infested Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah, Infested Knight, and the Genesis Scavenger as well, the Infested Scavenger. I really like what those brought to the table. Obviously, I don't think they see as much play as I'd like, but I think they're really fun cards to work and play around.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking about my favorite card, it's probably a card everyone else hates, but it's Mechanism. And a lot of people say it's not a very good card, but I'm pretty sure it will find a place in competitive decks in the near future.
Why is that, Robbie?
I like Mechanism. I really like Mechanism, actually.
Well, it's firstly the only one cost drop in Genesis, and you'll always have like one resource left over when you're doing certain turns and things. So like they will come out.
And you like it because of the support zone positioning element that you introduced with that card, right?
I mean, that's good, but that's not really it. Like, it's a consistent buff. One cost, every turn you could potentially be getting 2, +2/+2. And you pay 1 and exhaust a leader for a +3/+3. And that's like a pretty consistent commander. So a 1 cost on turn 1, and for the rest of the game, you're getting +2. I think could be a very big factor, and especially when you're talking about the Clue Constructor, sort of multiplying that effect.
I haven't seen anyone doing that.
Interesting play in the near future.
Yeah, no, I think it's good because it is a really, really good turn 1 play for just anything, because that just means everything you play out from that future will gain +1, pretty much.
But have you seen it in the last few weeks, Nova? Have you seen anyone playing?
I haven't really seen it. It's in my personal Genesis deck. I've actually got 2 of them in there for a turn 1 play, because there isn't, apart from a later, there isn't really a good turn 1 play.
That's right.
Obviously playing a constructor, but most of the time you have it in command or something like that. So
it's not a good turn 1 play.
So I think it's good. I agree with you, Robbie. But if that's your favorite, that's nice.
It's freedom.
That's a good favorite. Right, Chess, you want to go ahead with the one?
And I think.
Oh, sorry.
I think people tend to forget that the artifacts aren't unique. So you potentially have 2 mechanisms on the field, and then the card in the middle would be getting +2, and the cards on the outside would be getting +1.
Yeah. Okay, you see, because if you have 2 of them out, middle one's going to get +2, the outside one's going to get +1, so that's a lot. +4 for 3 cards. It's pretty strong.
It's a neat idea. So, Robbie, if that's your real name, Which is camera freeze?
Yeah, this camera's frozen in an amusing way, which is glorious.
Looking lovely, sir. Can you still hear us, Rob?
Hello? Is anybody there?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
There you
Doing
go.
the catch up, and it's like, la, 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 la.
All right. All right.
Okay.
But
Your camera's froze. We don't know
Oh,
why.
we're back.
Oh, there you
We're
go.
back.
Look, he's moving. What's your, I know this is a little dicey coming from a developer, from the designer of the card sets, because you might feel like you're giving away a bias. So don't feel that way. Don't feel you're giving away a bias. Just as a gamer, what's your favorite faction, your least favorite faction in Infinity Wars after Infestation?
I don't think I should be saying this. I'd say my favorite faction is Genesis, followed by DoD. See, I like to be in control, but I find Varroa is a little bit too control. You just have to sit back and play some spells. It's a bit better now with stuff like the Hydra and the Summoning Stone to sort of keep you offensive. But before it was very just sort of sit back and destroy things. I like to be a bit more up in their face and sort of play control while being while slowly working their health down. And I find that with Genesis I can do that. I'm not sure about competitive play, but between cannon fire and the remove card from play, you do have a lot of options to still control. And I really like that about Genesis. And Dot is sort of the same thing. More you by giving you guys extra health, you end up controlling the board a lot more. You have a lot more board presence. So those are probably my two favorites. Worst, least favorite?
Ooh.
I know which faction you hate.
There's no faction that I would never play. But I'd say my least favorite right now.
Yeah.
It's either Warpath or Exiles.
All right.
Warpath just because it's pretty straightforward most of the time. You sort of beat their face in. I mean, sometimes it's fun to just sort of smash people's faces in and not really care too much.
Warpath! Warpath!
But Haunted Dragon is one of the best cards ever, and you can build a lot of cards spells around it to protect it. And I really enjoy the Haunted Dragon decks. And Exiles, it needs some work. So that's probably why it's some.
By that, Robbie means Exiles of diarrhea.
Oh,
I don't even know what you mean by that. I just enjoy saying that word. I thought you hated the sleepers from things you said in QA. I thought you were enthusiastic for the sleepers to go away. I thought, but maybe that's your designer hat. Maybe your designer hat is against the sleepers.
Yeah, they introduced a lot of problems. I guess this will be a question later, so I'll just answer it now. But Berry and its 8 cost limit, I guess. Overall, I'm not very happy, or I was less happy before, but I think the late game of Infinity Wars needs a little bit of work. We've had a lot of 11 costs and 12 cost cards, but to me, anything over 6 cost is very, very expensive. It doesn't matter what card you play at that point. You're probably only going to play one card.
It's a reason that the draft meta prefers low cost cards so that you can afford those big costs and still get a second play that turn. If you don't really build constructed that way, but in draft you take a lot of 2s and 3s so that when you do play the 6s and 7s, you can still get an extra play with them.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. It's like how everyone says that Infested Dragon is the best dragon ever because it's 10 cost rather than 11. And it's totally true. So I think in the future I'd like to make higher cost cards a little bit above the curve where they usually like we sort of have like a linear power curve as the card's cost gets higher.
Mm-hmm.
But I think towards those higher cost cards should really be sort of pushing the power of those to make them seem better, I guess.
Okay.
But I don't know how I segued into that. But Barry is a potentially very dangerous card.
Oh, yes.
Both in this set and in future sets.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was concerned that it was really about the Mega Unit 2 card, but it's really not. It's really about future-proofing the card and the set as a whole.
So why 8?
By limiting, because we still want 9-cost cards to be very strong. Is basically what we're saying. Like by the time we get to the end of the 10 resource costs, like we want people to be having like really strong, rewarding plays.
Mm-hmm.
And 9 is still going to be a very expensive card. To me, there's not much difference between a 9-cost card and a 10-cost card. Because either way, you're only going to play one card that turn.
Yeah, I agree.
Stuff like Mega Unit 3, like, if that was a 10-cost card, it wouldn't make any difference. If it was an 8-cost card, it would make quite a bit of difference.
That's true. The only other 9-cost that comes to mind is Gluttony.
Yeah.
We don't have many 8 to 9 costs. Because usually we sort of skipped straight to 10 or 11 because we wanted like those really big epic cards. But I think in the future we'll start working more towards high cost cards as in 8, 9, 10.
All right, cool.
To sort of bridge the gap between sort of the mid game and the late game that happens. Like sort of in between the mid game and the late game, a lot of people tend to just stall it out. And if they want to play a high cost card, they'll, use the trading post to get extra resources. And I feel like there's a little bit of a gap in the actual gameplay, sort of turn 8, 9, 10. So in the future, I would like to introduce more strong cards at around that cost. And Barry could potentially destroy that. So it was more future-proofing. It's not anything else. I'm not sure I did agree though with the Barry into Cyber Infested Dragon.
It was kind of nice.
It was
kind of nice.
It was extremely powerful.
Yeah, but Cyber Infested Dragon can be taken out by a Demon of Fear. It was powerful, but not ridiculous. I mean, it would infect that Demon of Fear. It would capture that Demon of Fear on its way out, which is a little bit too strong, maybe. But Cyber Infested Dragon, because of its toughness point, was kind of okay to resurrect at 10.
That's true.
I'm not saying it was like ridiculous, but it's definitely something on my radar that's a little bit iffy. And then if that's a little bit iffy and I want to improve sort of like the late game of the game in future sets, then in the future we could have had big issues. I quite enjoy sleepers, but they do pose a lot of issues. Simply just going forward now with the Exiles cards, interactions with the graveyard, stuff like Ritual Master into Elita Sufferer, stuff like that. There is a lot of potential out of grave play, and sometimes it causes some issues. Sleepers are fun to play with, playing them. And when I say in the council...
Hello. No. Oh,
I don't want them to go.
You're stuttering. Robbie? Hello?
I can hear you fine.
You can hear us fine? Yeah, you keep stuttering,
Hello?
that's all. There we go. Okay, you're back. Alright. Damn Sky.
We're good. Yeah, I think I said everything I needed to say. So.
Well, except for the part where it stuttered and we didn't hear it. There's that part. So that's good that you feel you said what you had to say, but you remember we're recording an interview for the public, and they didn't hear what you had to say.
No, I think it only missed out in the last couple of seconds. Like, what was the last thing I said?
Oh, I'm not listening.
Good job, Chess. Good job. Get out of the podcast. Anyway, all right then. We'll move on from that. So talk about favorite cards, worst cards, stuff like that. So, what are you working on right now in Infinity Wars or within Lightmare?
I'm working on the campaigns at present.
Okay.
There's big rework to the campaigns in the pipe.
Nice.
Not much I can say apart from that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Well, Teramis told us last night you're going to have easy, medium, and insane, or easy, hard, and insane, or normal, hard, and insane kind of thing. Is there going to be, besides the difficulty, the AI, are there going to be differences in the campaigns based on those difficulties, like a little more goodies per difficulty, or is it just going to purely be AI strength?
No, you will get extra awards for defeating them on harder difficulties. The easy, medium, hard thing, it might just be 2 difficulties at this stage. We'll see. But so it might just be like normal and then like crazy difficult, sort of. I guess like Super Meat Boy, you've got the normal worlds and the dark worlds.
Mm-hmm.
But
you just compared Infinity Wars to Super Meat Boy.
Nice.
I love Super Meat Boy.
I'm terrible at that game. I'm so terrible
but
at that game.
the harder difficulties will both be smarter. They'll play better cards or better decks, and you'll get additional rewards for defeating those. So
That's good. That's good. I like the fact that you guys are trying to build just a pure single player. So there's going to be obviously the multiplayer, drafting, PvP side to it, but then there's just going to be you can never play a single person ever if you don't want to. I don't like that.
Well, apparently a huge number of people play the game that way. Like me and Nova and I are like hardcore PvPers. Like to us, that's the whole game.
Oh yeah.
But there apparently exists a sort of person that only wants to play single player. And good for them. Good for them.
Well, I think it's good. It's not like you can't really do it in a card game. Like that hasn't really been properly done before, and I like it. I like the fact that you can. And with the new reward system and stuff like that, I will probably, if you are saying the campaign's going to be like what it is, I'll probably go back and play it, because at the moment I don't want to touch the campaign because I've just done it. Like I did it like a long time ago.
Believe me, I know. I've done the campaign anytime.
So yeah.
So you got eight missions for 6 factions right now, like 48 missions, which is a lot. Almost 50 campaign missions. What direction would you like to go with single player content beyond the campaign and the academy?
Oh, I like this question. I would. There's lots of things I'd love to do, sort of like big co-op games against big bosses, and potentially even introduce decks and cards which you wouldn't see in multiplayer. Like I guess different characters and things, different cards which are only like in single player, which the AI would use, which are extra powerful or just different.
Okay.
But I mean that's a lot of resources which we may or may not ever get to use. I've always liked the idea of sort of like how you have those games where you have like dungeons and you just like the first level and you go deeper and then you keep going as long as you can until you die, and then you get like rewards depending on how deep you go.
Yeah,
I would sort of like to introduce that. Like I would like to introduce basically, I guess, like a single player draft, I guess, where you make a deck. It's probably like your pre-constructed deck, and then you play against AIs, and they get continuously harder, and then maybe your health or morale doesn't regenerate after each game, and you have to go keep going down as far as you can and keep going, and then you get stronger rewards for however long you last. Obviously, there's ideas of great big dragons that you play, and they have like a big 3D dragon on their instead of like their battlefield, and they breathe fire on all your cards every turn. But we're talking about a lot of resources at that stage. I think single player it's always going to be on our radar, and there's always going to be things we can do, cool things.
That sounds really
it does
cool.
take a lot of content, so it will be quite a long wild to get these cool things happening.
Oh yeah.
If you have any suggestions for single player stuff, just say it in chat or forums.
Yeah, there you go. But that a dungeon crawler Infinity Wars, that sounds amazing. That sounds awesome. I want to play that.
Yeah, that's a neat idea.
Yeah.
It is a neat idea. And if you guys didn't catch that, Robbie's saying he is looking for ideas. So put them on the forums if you have ideas for single player content. I don't think he's asking us. I think he's asking you, the viewer. So
Well, you guys can just send it to me in little private messages and annoy me.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
I'll do that.
for
I
everyone
promise.
else on the
What are you talking about? We never annoy you. What are you talking about? We don't do that.
wrong word. You chat to me.
I inform you of outstanding issues that you may not be aware of.
It was Jesse who brought to me the attention of infected drone. Yeah, maybe turn to 1111. Never seen it before that.
The first time I saw it was on my stream, and I immediately shouted unfair, and then I just started playing it. And I was like, okay, well, if it's in the game, I'm going to play it then.
Good job, Chess. Good job.
And then I
You're
got
one of those.
Now it's like part of my GI deck, and now I'm getting my own deck nerfed. So people can't, if you think I'm biased, dope, I screw up my own play.
Yeah, nice. So single player content is going to be wicked. So what? In your head, let's put it this. Let's like because we're going to interview you. So in your head, what do you want in multiplayer? Because obviously we talked about the single player. What other stuff are you thinking right now that you want in the game for the future, or is planned or not planned?
My personal preferences. There's two things I really, 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 really want. One is co-op, like 2v2, 2v3. Or just full player like free for all. And the other is I would finally love us to actually get our spectator modes and like replay sort of things going.
Oh yes,
That'd be huge.
There's a big one for me. So, before you guys came along, we had like a tournament in July or something, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we had the best of people sort of like record their games on Fraps and put them on YouTube and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'd really love us to sort of polish off that side of the game and get people to be able to save replays and give them to their friends and they can watch their own replays. And get sort of like spectator modes going on.
It would also make the
that's
organizing of independent tournaments a lot easier.
Oh, definitely yes. Because I'm trying at the moment with tournament. I actually hosted with tomorrow, which is probably today when it comes out. But yeah, I'm trying. I'm doing my little 16-man mini tournaments, and the last one actually went quite smoothly, to be honest. So we'll see with this one. It is difficult when you can't see what's going on, and it's difficult to obviously referee it and make sure it's not cheating and.
Anytime you're asking the participants in a tournament to report their results back, it's a little sketchy. I mean, that's how chess tournaments have always been for years. But chess is a solid state game with no moving parts, so it's very limited what could go wrong. There's no way, no one ever comes to the chess adjudicator and says, we had a desync. That never happens.
No.
What do you think?
What's a desync? Yeah. So, is the desync ever going to be No, I'm kidding. It will be fixed eventually. Just...
Get on that, Robbie.
Yeah, that's it.
We're trying.
Oh, don't worry. It's all good.
It's not your job. It's not Robbie's job. Leave him alone. Shield Robbie. Shield him.
Okay. Give shield +1. All right then. Yes, you want to go ahead with the next question, I guess?
Well, I think we're moving on to questions from our viewers.
Oh, okay.
These are going to be questions that Nova and my viewers submitted. For a few days, we've been saying we had this interview coming up, and people could ask whatever they want. Some of these questions are quite silly. Some of them are a little aggressive and hostile. And some of them are just questions, as questions might be.
Yep.
Oh, well, that's a good start. That's a good start.
The first one follows under the category of perhaps a bit aggressive and hostile. Comes from Gospel Gangster. And the question is, if you were trying to improve the Exiles, what was the purpose of making Splatterer as bad as you did?
Gospel.
I think Splatterer is undervalued.
All right then.
So you think he's not bad? You think people just don't understand him? He's misunderstood.
I think he's okay. I don't think he's particularly strong, but I think he's in an okay place. But as a whole, the faction does need a lot of work. In the more recent patch, I guess, which you guys might have by now, is we're bringing down. The whole faction is very linchpin on Ritual Master and Demonic Disciple right now, and everything else is very weak in comparison. What we're planning to do is bring down the power of those linchpin cards and sort of flatten the Exiles faction as a whole, and that way we can really look at the faction as a whole and bring it up as a whole, instead of just sort of like, oh, we'll just make certain cards better, or again. Yeah, right now the whole deck, like the whole faction, is based around Ritual Master, and that's it. So once we've brought down the power of those cards, we can really start looking at bringing up the rest of them. And I will put Splatterer on my list for you. And
a gospel will like that. Yes, I think so. So yeah, another question actually from Gospel as well. Actually, no, let's talk about the Exiles a little bit. I think we should segue just to generally talk about how the Exiles are, because you mentioned that obviously you want to take out some cards, flatten it all out. I think that's a good way of approaching it. I think, but yeah, there's obviously some bugs, some bugs with the Z, but let's not talk about that again because that's horrible.
Were you expecting the Hungry Abomination to be like the takeoff value card of the set the way it is right now? I mean, it obviously depends completely on Ritual Master.
I see Hungry Abomination as less of an issue as the rest of the cards in the faction. It's very like a one-dimensional card. And if you happen to assassinate it or get rid of it, like that, it's gone. Like it's sort of putting all of your eggs in one basket, and if that basket gets destroyed, then it has a lot of options to get around it, and I don't think it's a huge problem. It is very strong, but right now I see it as a huge issue, and I think once Ritual Master is brought down, Hungry Abomination will falter a little bit as well as part of that. So I didn't expect it to be, one of the highest trade value cards, but I did expect it to go rather well.
Yeah, that's fair. It's just because it gets so big. Like if it just eats a Splatterer as it takes it through, it's just like, what? Come on. Turn 6.
See, Splatterer. Good card.
Good for discarding. Yeah, like, because if you discard it, then it's just like I think the worst I've got the Abomination is probably like 60 by turn like 5 or something. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
But as the opponent, you literally you save a Death Ray, you save a Hubris, you save whatever you know it's coming. You save a Fight and a Coil. Whatever faction you're playing, you save your removal, and you time it, you wait for it to come out, and you just...
Yeah, that's true.
Gone.
Yeah. That is true.
And going forward, well, people should have a lot of options to stop the engine, or slow the engine at least, fueling Hungry Abomination. Mm-hmm. So, I guess for people the patch will be out by the time you guys see this, but Ritual Master is getting brought down to a 0/4. And it doesn't buff itself. So potentially you could get rid of it quite early with firebolts and things like that, which will slow the engine as a whole and make your Hungry Abomination a lot more dealable, I guess. And obviously a lot of the engine as a whole to discard cards is very risky, I guess. It takes quite a lot of effort to keep it going. So obviously stuff like the Devil of Despair getting moved to your Assault Zone, like if you want to use it to discard, you know exactly where it's going, and there's a lot more you can do to build around that. Frenzied Monstrosity, obviously, you can only do it 3 times, and if you firebolt that, it can only do it 2 times. So there's a lot of ways that you can slow down the engine and make Hungry Abomination not quite as potent when it does actually hit the field.
Yeah.
Yeah,
all right, cool. Yeah, that sounds good. Well, so you bring it down to a 4/4. That's going to make a lot of Lightning Blast and Firebolt users very, very happy, I think.
Well, and I'll say it brings the Ritual Master down to secluded constructor level, where it's essential to the faction, but not. It's no longer in a spot where the faction designed where you can't lose this thing or you're screwed. It makes Lightmare have to develop other avenues for the faction because they're making the Ritual Master vulnerable to removal.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, cool. I've actually just thought of another question. This is from me, not from one of our viewers. Are there decks out there that you've kind of thought of as you're making the faction that have not cropped up at all, or I'm just wondering if there's like something. There's a combo
that's
that
a
no
cool
one's
question.
used. It's a combo that no one's used that you've thought about when you're making the card and no one's used it.
Well, I mean, what was the card? See, Balance was really a card which I built for one of my favorite decks. I'm sure people have seen it on the internet, which is a Genesis DoD deck where you. How do you play it? Yeah, you get your Balanced Warrior and you sort of sacrifice your defense columns and stuff like that onto your Balanced Warrior, which obviously makes it like a 26 because it's only giving the health, and then obviously its power is equal to its health.
Yeah.
And I thought Balance would be really nice to use in conjunction with that, with stuff like Defense Column, a lot of cards like that. There is one deck, I probably shouldn't say this, but I tried to make a Saculus interdimensional phase bot deck, because you can all the Genesis cards to remove cards from play.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can basically like 120 phase bots out quite well if you play like control and stuff like that, just with cannon fires and stuff like that. You can get like a lot of international phase bots,
Okay.
and then you'll actually crash the game before you can play Saculus. But
yeah.
But it is very fun for me to try, at least.
So you mean like, so obviously just using the phase bot, making loads of them, kind of stalling, and then using Temporal Anomaly Shift to pull them all out and then all them back in again so you get double, and just keep doing that over and over
Yeah,
again
except
with
that
Saculus.
as of at least the last I knew, Anomaly on a phasebot caused a desync.
Yeah.
So does Temporary Mass Reality Shift on a phasebot cause a desync. So not
I'm
only
pretty sure we fixed that. I'm fairly sure.
you what?
I think we fixed that.
You do
Fingers
think that's
crossed.
fixed.
Oh, ooh, nice.
That's interesting. Because
I
I
thought
mean, you're talking about like 6
it's-
desyncs before you crash the game.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you could multiply just with 6 abilities. You could multiply a phase bot. Let's see, that's 2, 4, 8, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and 64. You could get 64 out with just anomalies and. Is that right? No, that's not right.
I think you can get more. I think you can get more.
Yeah, I think so.
I did the math. I mean, if you use 3 of the single target ones, then you'd have 6. That would go 12, 24. What? Anyway, I've done the math and get it ridiculously high.
Maths OP.
Well, even 32 interdimensional phase bots is quite a lot of them.
Yeah, you very rarely see 32 cards on the board anyway. But yes, let's go forth and break the game, people, with this deck. But no, that sounds cool. Like, I really want to be able to use. I don't know if you've patched this, or if it's even intended. The phase reality thing, Termus's favorite card, being used on like Saculus, because it currently doesn't work.
Yeah, that's true. That hasn't that and on Luca it doesn't actually. It only like Saculus comes back in and only does 2 damage right now if you temporary mass reality shift him with everything else.
So yeah. So is that
I
intended?
don't even know how that works. I'm pretty sure I remember this bug before. I think we may have tackled it.
Okay, all right.
I think we have.
Cool,
I'm
because I
pretty
really
sure.
want to play my Landstead deck again with that temporal mass reality shift in it. So, yeah.
Jess
Awesome.
is just shaking his head. He's like, I hate that deck.
No, it's just. I mean, there's Landstead and Anomaly have been banned from draft for quite some time now, like 2 months. So obviously, I will take it as a sign those cards are remedied when they're allowed in draft again.
I'm talking about constructed though. They're not banned from constructed.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that it's because those issues may still be occurring though.
Yeah, I'm telling you now. Desync is a viable strat in games.
Enough. Don't listen to him.
No, I'm
That's
joking.
not a viable strategy.
I'm joking. Best card by far, Desync of Avarak. Best card. It will forever be known as that. But yeah.
Is it decent? Just
Yeah, it just breaks everything. It's fun though. All right, Jess, have you got another question? You work.
Well, we have Gospel Gangster's second question, which we went off on our Exile tangent. Gospel Gangster's second question was, are there any plans to make an old Ritual Master Light card where you sacrifice your own characters for stats, buffs, or effects? I mean, that's really more like Constructor, actually. But
I suppose it works with similar cards like Shield Generator, where you're sacrificing cards for an effect. So yeah.
Yeah. There isn't any current plans. See, the set we're working on right now was already in development by the time we started working on the Exiles rework. But that is a good point. It was quite a good card, both in design and effectiveness, I guess. And I'll write that down, and you may see it in future sets.
Oh, there you go. All right, this is a bit of a silly question from Piano. Piano Hands the person. Will there ever be a Walrus Cavalry faction? I don't think you know how to handle that. I think we've just broken Robbie. He's like, this is the next set now.
yeah, Nova did just use the words walrus and cavalry in a sentence. That happened on the show.
Maybe if there's infinite dimensions, anything could happen.
Maybe on one of those Rift Worlds is a walrus cavalry. Let's see.
I'm not to ever say never.
Would you be open to users starting a Kickstarter to independently fund? Can we independently fund the Walrus Cavalry faction and donate those funds for a Walrus Cavalry?
I'm going to start that Kickstarter.
I'm not the person to ask about that, but I'd kickstart that.
All right. Well, when we have Elfie on the show, we'll ask him about independently funding Walrus Cavalry.
Yeah, actually, that segues into another question I've got. When you did the Kickstarter, obviously you pledged a certain amount of money, and then you could make your own card or help design your own card. Are you going to be doing that kind of thing? Not necessarily for donating, just as like people designing their own cards, or maybe like competitions, or not necessarily that, but something to that effect of people being, apart from the QA team, the actual general people being more involved in the generation of cards, or is that just not going to be everything?
Or will people be able to?
I would be. I would be open to the idea. It's not really my area,
Mhm.
but I mean, we make cards every set based around certain people in the company that are working, or people who want them. I think to do like just a pledge level thing might be a bit ridiculous now that we've picked up a lot of steam and people are actually interested in the game.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
We probably wouldn't have that left to design because there'll be people backing. But I think there will be opportunities in the future to do like promotions or raffles and things like that, or competitions.
Well,
It's
can I
an
just
interesting thought, and we. Yeah.
can I slide in? I think in the set after the next set you're working on, there should be a card called like the Podcasters for Chess and Nova card,
We need cards named after us. I mean,
or at least one card for us for our show. At least like
yes.
a meta card that I think we're like the news media of Reach or something like that. I don't know.
That has to happen.
Thumbs up, Robbie.
I'm open to it.
You got
let's
that
just
covered,
say yes.
right?
Yeah, you can make it non-right legal like Radog and Navi. Just yeah. Look at these faces. Look at these
on
faces.
On a side note, when I do design cards, when we go through that period of time,
Mm-hmm.
I do go and check all of the posts on the forums about like new card ideas, and I think there's a thread there called like card suggestions or card ideas. So if you do have cool ideas, put them in there, and you might see them in the game.
There you go,
cool.
guys. There you go. So they do actually read the forums. So.
So another question from Piano Hands the person was,
This is good.
what future sorts of mind games would you like to introduce to the game? Other than the existing sort of dodge the mass death mind game, or which creatures are you going to death ray, sort of Aurora and Genesis mind games. Are there classes of mind game you'd like to introduce?
Like to, yes. I think the only one we've really consciously thought about is some sort of like trap cards.
Mm-hmm.
I guess where it'll activate when certain conditions are met. But realistically, I don't see it as a big issue. If you were to compare like a game like Street Fighter, there is one kind of mind game. You know what I mean? Like, what are they going to do next, and how am I going to react to that?
Okay, yeah.
If we add like an additional layer, you're sort of trying to do two mind games at once, and then it starts getting very heavy on the computational power to sort of wager what payoffs are best and what is going to benefit you the most in sort of like a risk reward sort of scenario. So I mean, we're open to other ideas, but we'd like, I guess, to keep the game as approachable as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And by like it would have to be it would have to be done well, obviously, I guess. It wouldn't be like a new element. It would just be a new way to go about things. I guess a good example I would guess is if it's not your priority playing Call of the Crusade when you think they're going to mass death. Stuff like that. That's not your typical like dodge the death ray kind of gameplay. But it doesn't sidestep. It's still in that sort of constraint of what is my opponent going to do next and how am I going to counter that? So I mean, it's a tough question, really. And I guess we haven't really considered much else, I guess, right now. Trap cards are something we've always had on the table since day one.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't on that. We've found a way which we're happy with, actually doing it. But I mean, we're always looking for, I guess, different ways to abuse the system, for lack of a better term, to get more mind games or different mind games.
Yeah, it's kind of a very hard question.
Put them in the.
Yeah, there you go. Suggestions. But no, it is a very hard question to answer, to be honest. It's, I
And
wouldn't
what
be
It's a
able
bit of a
see,
load.
you see among the best players is that they start mind gaming the mind game, and it becomes its own sort of infinite loop.
Yeah.
And that's a very dangerous realm of play. And it's a problem relates only to this sort of game. In chess, it's a solid state mind game. You only think, is this a decoy? Is this bait? And what are they going to do next? And that mind game gets resolved almost immediately in most cases, unless someone's looking many, many moves ahead. Where in Infinity Wars, you get into this sort of mind game where, like, okay, well, he probably thinks I'm going to mass death, so I shouldn't mass death. But then he's going to think that I think I shouldn't mass death, so maybe I shouldn't mass death. But then he's going to think that I'm going to think that I shouldn't mass death, so maybe I should mass death to second guess him thinking I'm not going to because I shouldn't. And it's like, how many infinite iterations of that sort of thinking can you go down before it's just a rabbit hole?
Then you just end up like me and just have mass death paranoia 24/7. Even when I'm playing against 3 Warpath, I'm like, shit, mass death, watch out.
Yeah. Basically, I guess rule of thumb design-wise is you don't really want to go more than 2 layers deep. So you've got like scissors, paper, rock, right? And I mean that's one of those scenarios. But if it's just do I pick scissors or paper, that's one mind game. But if it's scissors, paper, rock, you have like 2 options, and then it sort of cycles. Like you have this beats this, and you get that infinite loop of what is he going to do? Is he going to mass death? Am I going to dodge it? He knows I'm going to dodge it, so mass death. If you add an extra layer on that, it doesn't really add as much. It doesn't really. In certain ways, I would say that scissors, paper, lizard, Spock.
Rock, paper, scissors, lizard,
Rock.
Spock.
You know the game? Whatever it is. With lizard, scissors, paper, rock, lizard, Spock. It's the worst game.
Did you just add a lizard to rock, paper, scissors?
Have you not seen Big Bang Theory?
No.
That'll be why then. Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's been around before that. But it's basically scissors, paper, rock, but with 5 options. And so you've got lizard, which beats Spock, and I can't remember how it goes, but there's Spock from Star Trek, and rock and scissors and paper and lizard.
Yeah.
And somehow it works. But I would rather play scissors, paper, rock.
Chess is just like, nope.
But your point was it doesn't add that much more to the game. Isn't that your point, Robbie?
It adds a lot more complexity for little to no gain. It's if one person picks paper and the other person picks, I don't know, it's you're still doing these mind games. They're still like the base sort of foundation for it is still the same. You're still asking the same questions. You're just asking more of them. But that's not what the game's about. Like well, I guess it is, but it's such a loaded question.
Yeah. Let's move on then. This one, I kind of.
I guess.
Okay, go ahead.
There was.
Oh, I think we've cut out. Your sound's cut out, man. There we go. I think you're back.
Am I back?
Yeah. Didn't hear any of that.
Oh, now it's gonna. All right. Okay. All I was saying is that you want the games to have a lot of complexity, but you want to put it forward in a way where
Oh dear. We seem to be having some technical issues here. Which is unfortunate. How about we just take a couple of minute break, guys, and then we'll be back in a second. So just for you guys, it'll be just a second. For the rest of us, we'll just take 5 minutes. All right, cheers. And we're back. So yeah, it'll just be a second for you guys on the stream. So it's all good on the stream, on the YouTubes, should I say? All right, so I'll jump straight into the next question. This is a good one actually, and I like this one, and I wanted to ask you this one as well. When I'll put it into like kind of 2 questions. How do you go about creating cards just like from nothing? and kind of what do you do to get your creative juices flowing and things like that in the office? Is there like little fun things you guys do in the office, or do you just sit there and things come
I
to
think
you? Or...
don't you work alone in your own office, Robbie, away from everyone? Do you have like no friends?
There's two offices. I work sort of with my team, and that has an artist and a programmer. My artist does all the 3D battlefields, and my programmer helps me with cards and bugs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You work with Dan?
Honestly, Dan, yes.
And who's your artist?
Ethan.
Oh yeah, Ethan. I know those guys. They're great guys.
I mean, cards, we sort of just do it, honestly.
Fair enough.
I mean, sometimes you get a bit stuck, but you sort of just got, like, a cool idea. Like, the Hydra card wasn't mine, but Ian was just like, I want a Hydra. Like, it's cool, and it gets stronger. Like, if it doesn't get killed, and it just keeps getting stronger, and you got to kill it, like, all in one blow. So we usually start off with, like, a theme, I guess. Sometimes we just start off with, like, cool card ideas and sort of go backwards. But since I've taken over, I try and get as many different perspectives as possible. And I try and get everyone involved in the card development, at least in the initial concept phase, where I just get everyone I can to put ideas down, like on a piece of paper. And I get the artists to do it. I get the admin ladies to do it. Just so I have like as much of a broad range to draw from, like, as possible.
Yeah.
Is this? Yeah. Okay. And yeah, obviously I go through all the forums as well and just try and get like as many sort of cool ideas as possible before I sort of start culling them and figuring out what's good, what works.
Yeah, you take.
I try and sort of give like some themes as well, like what is the faction do this set.
You take really large advantage of the QA team as a resource to bounce ideas off of too, which I think a lot of us really appreciate.
Oh, yeah.
But for those of you outside, oh, motorcycle, how lovely. Those of you outside of the process don't know, like Robbie spends a lot of time. He'll be sitting alone in the office sometime really late at night because he works extra, because he works real hard. And he'll just like he'll be like, what, is anybody here? What do you think of this? And sometimes I'll be the only one here. And I'll be like, I don't know, Robbie, I think this. And he's like, oh, okay. But it's like he really takes advantage of having us all available just to check. He's always wondering, like, is this idea of mine seem like a good idea to anyone besides me? And I think that's a great quality in a game designer, because you could so easily just cement things and be fascist about it and what have you.
See, usually, no game designer is ever right 100% of the time. A lot of these larger companies have, I guess, teams of designers, and they talk about it and they sort of suss it out between them. But we don't really have that luxury. And in that sense, I try and use the community as much as possible.
Yeah, that's good. Like that you're involving everyone and actually looking through the forums and talking to his guys. So yeah, that's cool. I might as well go through the. Oh, do you want to go for one?
Well, there's one more piano hands the person question, and that's where do you want to see Infinity Wars in the next year, 2 years, 5 years? I mean, we already talked in a lot of respects about different features we want to see, but where do you want to see the product as a whole?
As a whole, in terms of how big it's become, or?
I mean, feel free to interpret it how you want, but where do you want to see this as a free online trading card game in the world? I guess as a product in the market. I mean, successful, that's an answer, I guess.
The way I see it is, this is probably more of a personal opinion, but the way I see it, we're really trying to be the competitive card game. There's a lot of card games that have come out in the last few years which are very casual orientated. They're like a lot of them are mobile phone based. And Infinity Wars obviously did start out as a mobile game. And yes, the mobile builds are coming. They're coming. We're working on them. And we really like to be the competitive counterpart of that. And really sort of promote the online competitive scenes. sort of get tournaments going a lot more and get the community to have the ability to host their own tournaments. But in terms of marketplace, like that's where I see us trying to be that competitive card game, both in the mobile space and on the PC space. Obviously, we have to cater to casual players who just want to have some fun in the campaign. But the vision has always been to sort of ease people into the competitive scene, even if they just want to be a casual competitor. But it's always been about making you feel like you are part of something, whether that's like rank 1 best player in the world, or whether you're best in your local friends group, or even just starting at the bottom. Like, we want to make it feel like it is a community.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
And it is a competitive community that are trying to learn and progress together, I guess.
Well, I think that's pretty near and dear to Nova in my heart, because
I think so.
we're very much, I think we're very prominent people in the community, for lack of a better word, I guess. And we both try to foster the community. We share a community between our streams, and we share a community who comes here and watches this cast, obviously with great guest hosts like yourself. But our lifeblood of being able to do what we do as media personalities for the game is definitely community. And I think this game has a great community as it stands. I'm always a little wary when people are a little full of their position. Well, I'm so-and-so on the leaderboard. And you see that with some new players who, but it seems like people get over that pretty quickly and would rather just be another person in the community than, I'm number 45, so there, whatever that is.
But no, the community is great in Infinity Wars. Obviously, you're going to have your jokers and controllers and stuff, but like for the most part, it is brilliant. And probably, like, everyone's so friendly. Like, there's so many people go into my stream, and I'm sure Chess has this as well, that come in and go, this guy just gave me all these cards for free just to help me out. And it's like, that's awesome. Just little things like that. Just make this
or somebody will come in my stream and say, oh, I really need this rare. And I'll look at my collection. I'll be like, well, I could give you that rare, but I kind of, because I'm the host, if I start giving away rares, everyone's going to expect me to give away rares. So I have to always say, well, I'll do that for a fair trade, no problem. But then unfailingly, someone else in the stream goes, I'll give that to you for free. And it's like, wow, well, take his because he's giving you a free rare. And that happens daily, easily.
Yeah, exactly.
See, I guess what's always drawn me to card games as a whole, both in the physical sense, and even sort of transitioning into tabletop games and board games, it's about the people I play it with. It's a community game. It's always been about a community. If you don't have a community, you don't have a game. You're just gonna play against yourself, which I mean we do sometimes. But you know what I mean? Like it is a multiplayer game. It is a card game, and realistically, the whole project was about transitioning the physical product into a virtual marketplace, or a virtual setting. And the community is a huge part of that. Probably more than 50-60% of it. It's about the community, and without a community, we wouldn't have a game. So from me to the community, thank you very much for playing it. Thank you very much for supporting it. The game would be terrible without you. So
there you go.
Thank you.
Well, it's a bit of an irony there that the community, it's so much about community for the three of us for our personal reasons, and yet you're the guy who designs the single player content, and something like 60-70% of the people who ever play this game are only going to play single player scenarios.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a great irony that so many people will check this game out, try the single player scenarios, go, oh, that was a fun puzzle or whatever, and I don't really feel like competing. And they view competition as a burden, where that's really what builds the community is compete. You say, oh, I played that guy yesterday, or oh, you kicked my ass. People come in my stream and all the time they see someone that they realize that, oh, this stream is a meeting place. It's not just about this guy doing a show. This is where I can meet other players, and they like, oh, you're the guy who I just lost my draft run to today. Good job. And they're like, ha ha. And the competition really builds that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love it, and it's only going to get better as soon as like spectator mode comes in. Um, but as soon as that comes in, I think the community is just going to skyrocket to amazing proportions. So yeah, cool. Right, another question from AU Dude 456. Weird name, interesting name. Are you going to expand on the swarmers into something like silvers from Magic the Gathering? If so, any future...
They're slivers.
Slivers, sorry. If so, any future ideas for them? Because I actually don't know what they are, so because I've not played Magic.
Slivers are pretty much insectoids.
Oh, okay.
Swarmers. We are working on swarmers as a whole in the next set as well. There will be quite a few new swarmers. I wouldn't say they'll see a lot of competitive play in the next set, but after that they probably will. Right now we're sort of trying to just spread it as much as possible and get one in each faction. But later on, probably in the set after Ascension, we will look at much more, I guess, interesting swarmers effects. And I guess swarmers as a whole were really inspired by slivers. So I guess that sort of answers your question. Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yes is probably the answer as well.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Demost.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh yeah.
I
Well,
was gonna
yeah.
say, yeah, the fact that you're gonna add one for each faction is kind of cool. I didn't know you guys were gonna do that, so that's cool. I'm interested
Yeah, I
to
mean,
see what you
the
come up
cards
with the
themselves sort
different
of beg for more. When we first saw the first preview Insectoid and it said all other Insectoids, people on my stream were like, does that mean there are going to be more? I'm like, what do you think? It says, of course there's going to be more. Yes. So Damost, who's a longtime member of the community, probably been playing longer than me or Nova.
I think so.
Damost wants to know what your favorite part about making the Infestation set was.
I think I'm not sure I quite lived up to the expectation on this front, but I really enjoyed making the cycle of artifacts. Because one of the core, I guess, objectives that was given to me when Infestation was first handed over was to make artifacts play a thing. Artifacts hate and playing artifacts. Because before we added artifacts with Infestation, but there wasn't that many, and you had one way to get rid of it, which was with the Vandalize, like a 6 cost. It's stupidly inefficient, and no one ever runs it. And that one of the core, I guess, objectives of the Infestation was to make the artifacts. And so that's why you see things like the Walrus. He's not a cavalry Walrus, but he is the Walrus, and he snatches artifacts. And as a whole, I thought, we're always trying to, now that we're starting to get to a point where we've got lots of cards, we want to add lots of double and triple purity cards to sort of push that edge. And I thought, let's make a cycle of artifacts which it would be kind of silly not to take, or at least not to consider. It's like a clear bonus for trying to push over that double purity line, or to get to double purity. In many ways, a lot of them didn't really reach up to quite that high standard. But I did have a lot of fun sort of working around artifacts and trying to get artifact hate and artifact play to be a lot more prevalent.
I think
I think a lot of the reason why you don't see it so much now is more because of like a sideboard thing. Because we don't have a sideboard, you know what I mean? So if you think someone's going to run it, then you would usually sideboard those sorts of cards. But now since we don't have sideboards, we don't yet. You're not going to put this card in your deck like just on the off chance that they put in an artifact or.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's something which it was close to my heart, I guess.
Yeah, I think they're all pretty good. I think the one with it's the least love is Crystal of Madness. And if anyone's looking for Crystal of Madness, I have 19 plat Crystal of Madnesses to trade. But that seems to get the least love. They're all even Brimstone has its proponents. I know people who love Brimstone, even though there's a lot of people who are giving. I know the criticisms of Brimstone are not new. Let's put that out there. Whatever you guys think you have to say about Brimstone, we thought of that a few months ago. So
Yeah.
it's there, it's out there. But even in its current state, there are people who believe in Brimstone's value, and I think that proves its concept as a card.
Well, same here. Like Shifting Stone is pretty much one of my favorite cards from the whole set. I just love the way it works and the fact that you can just go, haha, look at your ramp, goodbye ramp, and kill any ramp for 2. It's glorious.
And the combo with Disarm is mental.
Oh, like combo with Disarm's just brilliant. I love it. So yeah, it's such a cool card. But I like the artifacts. I like the way they work, and I think some of them are underused. I do agree with you there. I think they are underused, and they should be used more. So use them more.
Just put it out there that Ancient Aether, the Warpath to Purity artifact is not unique. You can make them lose like 15 health every time they play stuff.
There you go. There you go, Warpath players against Varroa. There you go. That's your answer.
But yeah, that is really, again, like a sideboard card, I guess, if you were to consider it. So.
Yeah. All right, Chess, you had some other questions from your viewers as well?
Oh, yeah, but there was one. Are you skipping this silly question, or are you going to ask
We'll
it?
save that for the end.
We'll save that for the end. Okay.
Yep. Go.
Robbie, are there any plans for future expansions to be centered around a specific faction the way Infestation was sleeper-centric? Wants to know Destructosaurus.
That's a good question, Chespy. That is our current plan, but going forward, it may not always be that way. I'm not entirely happy with the way Infestation worked, in which a lot of factions didn't really get the love they needed. With only 100 card sets right now, we're sort of splitting 100 cards between 8 factions, if you count factionless, I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in the future, we would love to have more cards per set, and we'll see how that goes. But in the near future, at least, that's what we are looking at. Well, I mean, next set we are introducing a new faction. I'm sure you've heard whispers of this before. So it'll be around that faction. And in the future, I imagine we will be doing somewhat of a similar shindig as we did Infestation.
All right.
Cool. Calamity X5 wanted to know, is there a plan in the near future to correct Flame Dawn's power curve, or to either correct their power curve in terms of aggro, or to give them more tools ability-wise to help them deal offensively with the situation in the meta right now? Or are they designed just to be a splash faction from now on, or are they just a hard counter to a specific situation? Are they going to be a niche faction, or are they going to return to their former glory as the fastest mofos on the block?
It's never our intention to make a faction like only a splash faction. Like, we really do want each faction to be viable by themselves. Obviously, we didn't quite give Flame Dawn the tools they needed to survive in this set quite as well as they have in the past. But it is planned at very least to make them viable competitively, I guess. At least, right. The way I see it is, right now you've got some very strong decks. And if you were to put all of your decks, the possible deck combinations in a tier list right now, so you've got like triple Varroa and triple Warpath sort of near the top, and Flame Dawn sort of near the bottom somewhere. It's not my plan to completely destroy the meta that is like right now. I more want to squash everything, bring everything closer together, rather than just make triple Varroa is going to be like really average now. And we're getting to a point now where like the meta started to settle down, and I will look at balancing cards before the next set. and bring Flame Dawn up a little bit. But it's never our intention to just shaft a faction and not make it good in comparison to everyone else. It just sort of ends up that way. And in the next set, I will be giving some love to Flame Dawn and DoD and other factions.
Yeah,
Yes.
those of you not in the know, there's we QA got access to the first say 10 or 12 of Robbie's latest creations to begin QA testing. I assume these are going to be the earliest preview cards that you as gamers get to see, and that's why we're testing them now. The Flame Dawn one is sexy. Oh boy, good stuff.
Just an update. You will start to see Ascension cards this week.
Wow.
In Quest Reward.
Oh, you mean in the game? Oh, yeah. There you go, guys.
There you go. We've been released these cards to look at on test, and they're going to start leaking out as one-offs weekly or twice a week. There's already 12 of them made for us to look at, so that's probably 2 months worth of previews already ready to go. And they're going to start as soon as this patch here gets solid. And next week is the huge GDC announcement, which is going to lead to a bunch of new content becoming available also. It's exciting.
Yeah, that's cool.
That announcement is going to be quite exciting.
Yeah. So one last serious question. This one's also from Calamity Ep.5. We've definitely gone. This is probably going to be our longest podcast ever. But damn, if it wasn't worth it.
It doesn't matter. It's cool.
What is your? Do you have thoughts about where the meta is at now, or a future balance shift you're concerned may happen in the meta? Is the meta about, is this the sort of overarching result you were expecting from this set? Any meta surprises to you? And how would you like? You already said your design philosophy is to flatten the curve before you adjust any spikes into it, and that's I think a very moderate design philosophy, and kudos to you for it. But how do you feel about the? I mean, obviously you essentially engineered this meta shift. So how do you feel about it? Besides how you're, separate from your feelings about the card set.
The meta didn't turn out the way I expected it to be at all. Really.
Fair enough.
Like I said, one of the core design philosophies of this set was to make artifacts play quite prominent. And I think overall the artifacts don't see as much play as we anticipated at all. We did expect Triple Warpath to be quite strong. We didn't think Triple Varroa was going to be as strong as it is. We did expect it to be, a contender. But right now it is pretty dominant. I mean, we didn't intend to make Flame Dawn quite so bottom of the pack. It is very different from what we expected and what we experienced during testing. I also thought we would have seen a lot more sleeper play, just because sleepers now have the most cards in the game compared to any other faction, and they've been in there less time than a lot of them. So I was expecting to see a lot more sleeper play.
Well, there is way more sleeper play than there was in Rise. It's just maybe not on the whole that large.
It's definitely massive in draft, though.
Than any other faction, realistically. And I don't want to touch them too much. I will expect, there's a lot more potential out of the sleepers right now than any other faction, combined with the hybrid cards that we've introduced. Hopefully they won't be factionless as commanders forever. And I think that'll bring up a lot of sleeper hybrid decks. But overall, the meta was very different to what I experienced on the test server and what I expected it to be like. But
and how will you, what sort of shift would you like to engineer to it now seeing where it's at. Anything specific that we haven't touched on?
Like I said, I do not personally. I'm not the only person involved in this process, but personally, I don't want to do anything drastic. Apart from exiles, because they sort of need it. They're still sort of work in progress. Like in a traditional card game, if you've got a new set, that's how it is for several months. And the meta will shift over time. But right now, like I said, we're trying to take the whole goal of Credit was take a physical product and transition it into digital. And a lot of people say like the benefit of making a digital card game is you can patch all of the dodgy cards and the overpowered cards. And we will abuse that to make sure that no cards are like on a ban list or anything like that. But I personally want to stay true to that digital, that physical product where the meta is somewhat stable. Obviously, I would like to bring down, like I want to flatten the difference between all of the decks. Like obviously, I think Varroa and Warpath are a little bit too solid right now. Like I don't see them being moved by much else right now. And I would expect them, if we didn't change any cards, to be pretty top of the pack for the whole set. But I don't want to make any drastic changes. I just want to bring everything close to together. So if this was all up to me, I would still have Varroa and Warpath pretty consistently up the top for the whole set until the next release. But obviously bringing everyone else up or them down a bit to I'm not a big change on top of the pack, even though the set's already been out for a month. These are cards which people have invested money into to try and get like the most competitive decks. And I'm not really keen on just changing people's opinions of card value overnight by my design. Like I know in Magic and things, there's some cards which just completely change value overnight depending on how well it went in a tournament. And that's good. That's engineered by the players, and that's really where I want to keep it. If you get my drift.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Yeah, but no, I think that's good. So you're basically saying that what's on top right now will probably stay on top-ish for the moment until the next set, of course.
Obviously,
like the balance as well.
It will probably get brought down a little bit, but I would. If it was 100% up to me, that's how I would go.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, cool. Also, I've got a little personal question. What are you going to be doing to Alpha 1 to make him a useful card? Please.
People want to know.
People want to know. Yep, they do want to know.
Really, just changes on his ability. I think the biggest problem with him right now is not so much the ability of his double strike and stuff like that. He's not easy to really get up to the stat worth that you want. I think right now it's paid 2 for +3/+3. Is that correct?
3 for +3/+3.
Well, that's terribly undercurved.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Never play it if it wasn't for the combination of the other abilities. And basically, I would like to bring that. Like, that is my main sort of focus right now, if I were to look at Agent Coil, is that particular ability. Because obviously, if you're playing Agent Coil and you want to play him as like your main source strategy, you're putting a lot of eggs into one basket. And 3 cost for +3/+3 is, you're putting a lot of eggs into that basket. And that's very tiny eggs, which costed you a lot because it's Easter or something.
Yeah, you made my favorite change to that saying ever, Robbie. You said today, and I'll be using this from now on, you said today, never put all your eggs in one basket because someone might come and destroy the basket.
Yeah, it's true.
Pretty genius.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, he's just like I actually tried to make a deck with him, and I didn't even finish it. I just gave up. It's just too difficult.
Well, his stat line is poor and his abilities are overcosted, so it's...
Yeah. You can put things in the deck to keep him alive, yeah, but then he could still get lightning bolt the first turn you put him out, so it's pointless.
Whoops.
But no, you said you're going to go silver. But I can understand from what he was on the test server that you've brought him down to what he is now, because if he was as powerful as that, you don't want a factionless card that is going to be in every deck.
I think you guys said this on your last cast, I think I watched, and it's having... Like, I couldn't move Agent Coil. Like, he was, from day one, meant to be a factionless card, and it is very dangerous. It could go in any deck, and if he was... Let's just say, for example, the 2-cost 2020, he would go in every deck. Doesn't matter what you're running. It doesn't matter if you're playing triple Varroa Control. You'd still play him.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's a dangerous card.
Yes.
Potentially.
At the moment, not so dangerous. He's just like a bit of a tickle. I think his best use would be a chump blocker. That's about it.
The legendary chump blocker.
I honestly think Soldier of Fortune is better than this card at the moment.
Oh, scathing criticism.
Ooh, that hurts.
I'm sorry. It's more value. It's more value.
But Alpha 1 has a gun blade. He has a gun
no,
blade.
He has two.
Well, the other one looks like more like a scimitar, and the one on top is a gun blade. The gun blade is in every coil.
Yeah, but I do like the fact that he changes artwork when you use his abilities, and that is really cool. And he is kind of like a Super Saiyan, but if he is, he's Krillin. That's how I would describe him.
Like you can thank Elfies for the art. So when you have him on stream.
We will do. All right, Chess, have you got any more questions left before we ask this last final one?
No, I think we're good. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, so Zaz
What do you mean
asks.
final one?
This final question was the stupidest question.
Is this the boss question?
What's Rob saying?
What do you say, Rob?
This is the boss question, isn't it? This is the one you've been saving for last.
It's just the stupidest question that we got, I think. Zazdaniel wants to know, what is your favourite pudding?
Lemon meringue pie. Probably.
Good choice. That's a good choice.
They make a lemon meringue pie pudding?
Well, no, when we say pudding, we mean like dessert.
What's wrong with you people?
When Americans say pudding, it means something completely different.
When we say pudding, we mean a pudding, is what we mean. And you mean all desserts?
Yeah, a pudding, you have starter, your main course, and you have pudding. And
yeah,
pudding
here
is
you have
desserts.
rice pudding, you have bread pudding, you have chocolate pudding, you have vanilla pudding, you have rice pudding. But you don't call a pie a pudding or ice cream a pudding. That's just silly. Let me just say, for all North Americans, you're wrong and you're insane, and don't ever let anyone know you talk about dessert that way.
This question should never have been asked.
Sure.
There you go. Your answer, lemon meringue pie.
I was expecting a sort of pudding.
No, Chess. No. Just.
I don't even know what a pudding is. If it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, does it?
Apart from maybe Christmas.
I don't know what a pudding is.
The Christmas pudding is with pudding actually written on the box or whatever.
Like, yeah, I'm on the same boat as Robbie. Like, when we say pudding, like, that doesn't conjure to mind any type of dessert. It's just every dessert.
Sorry, is this fellow that asked the question, is he from the States or?
I don't know, actually.
Well, that would clear up a lot.
Yeah, that would clear up a lot. I don't know. Actually. I should have checked. Well, anyway, what's your favourite pudding in American terms?
He said he doesn't
the
know
only
what
one I've
pudding
ever
is.
had is Christmas pudding.
There you go.
Christmas pudding.
Yeah, the only two I can think of are Christmas pudding and rice pudding. So,
Tapioca? You've never had tapioca
Right.
pudding?
oh yeah, that one's well.
Jeez.
Anyway. I think that's time to end before this goes places we don't want it to go. So, thank you very, very, very much, Robbie, for coming on the show. Much
Yeah, man.
appreciated. I hope you will come back at some point.
Thank you very much for having
Yeah,
me.
come back for the next set and talk about that meta and
Yeah.
your regrets and woes.
Well, I think we'll definitely be bringing you on again at some
Right, the
point.
next set is going to be amazing. All I'm saying.
Okay.
Next set's good.
From what I've seen of it so far, I can't wait. I can't wait anyway.
The art is so cool. The artists are getting so good.
Oh,
you guys.
yeah, that's one thing I will say right now. The artists are just getting better and better and better.
Oh my god.
So, Robbie, pass on for us to the artists that just, oh my god.
We love it.
Yeah. Keep up the amazing work, yeah. And
I
you
will.
as well, of course, Robbie.
You guys should wait until you see Mega.
What, sorry?
You guys should wait until you see Mega unit.
Oh, the
I should
Voltron.
probably say
The Voltron of mega
Oh.
units.
Mega unit.
it's good.
Oh, good. Good. I can't wait for that. I cannot wait for that. Ultra unit. Is it? You better have like an Optimus Prime reference or something in the flavor text. It just has to.
I'll just write that down.
Yes. All right. So that's it from us, guys. Thank you very much. Please check out mine and Chess Pieces stream. The links are below. So is there any last words you want to say, Robbie, before we call it a day?
Thank you very much for playing Infinity Wars.
There you go.
Indeed. Thank
I'm
you
sure
guys for
people-
playing Infinity Wars. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you for watching this cast and our streams as well. So that's it from us, guys. Thank you, Robbie, again. Thank you for Chess, and from me. That's it. Cheers, guys.
See ya.